We're diving into a concept that's often misunderstood, the real purpose of debate, and it's not about proving who's right. But before we jump in, let's ground ourselves with some focused breathing. Let's challenge a long-held belief about arguments and debates. People often enter a debate thinking the goal is to win, to crush the other side with facts, logic, or a snarky comment that goes viral. But this mindset misses the mark entirely. Being right or dominating the conversation isn't the purpose of a debate. The real purpose is something far more valuable. It's to think critically and to learn. When two people come together with opposing viewpoints, it's an opportunity to expand both perspectives, to explore the nuances that might otherwise be overlooked. But here's the problem. Most people don't approach arguments this way. Instead, they see them as a battlefield where victory is the only acceptable outcome. And why is that? It's often about ego. People equate being right with being smart, worthy, or respected. When their opinions are challenged, it feels like their identity is under attack, so they dig in, fighting harder. But let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Imagine viewing every argument as a chance to broaden your understanding rather than defend your stance. What if, instead of trying to beat your opponent into submission, you asked yourself, what can I learn from this person's experience? Suddenly, it's no longer about winning or losing, it's about growth. Here's the thing. When you engage in a debate with a truly open mind, you'll realize that people often come to different conclusions based on their unique life experiences. That doesn't necessarily make them wrong. It just makes their right look different from yours. Consider this. If we all grew up in the same environments, faced the same challenges, and shared the same values, we'd probably agree on just about everything. But that's not how life works, is it? So, before you step into your next argument, ask yourself this. Is there any information that could change my mind? If the answer is no, then you're not there to learn. You're there to lecture. And nobody likes being lectured. You wouldn't, and neither would the person you're debating. The ideal outcome of any debate isn't to have one person admit defeat. It's for both people to walk away thinking, I never saw it that way before. That's the sweet spot, the point where real growth happens. And growth is what we should all be striving for. But let's face it, being open to another perspective isn't always easy. Our biases, shaped by upbringing, culture, and personal experiences, are stubborn and persistent. And when we're faced with conflicting viewpoints, those biases flare up like warning sirens. We retreat into what's comfortable, what's familiar, seeking out information that confirms what we already believe. This is called confirmation bias, and it's a sneaky thing. The more we indulge it, the more we build walls around our beliefs, making it nearly impossible to see the world from another angle. Unfortunately, this isn't just a personal issue, it's a societal one. When enough people are locked into their own echo chambers, unwilling to engage in true dialogue, it leads to polarization. Sound familiar? It should. We see it everywhere. In politics, online, even in our personal relationships. When we focus on being right, we stop listening, and when we stop listening, we stop understanding each other. But here's the good news. It doesn't have to be that way. You can break the cycle. When you walk into a conversation prepared to really hear the other side, you're not just creating a space for a better debate. You're creating a space for mutual understanding. Imagine a world where we didn't feel threatened by differing opinions, where we could sit down, talk, and share ideas without feeling like our entire identity was on the line. That's a world where we could solve some of the biggest problems we face. But it starts with each of us choosing to approach debates differently. So, here's your takeaway. The next time you find yourself in an argument, stop worrying about who's going to win. Shift your focus. Ask questions. Be genuinely curious. Say things like, "That's interesting. Can you tell me more about how you came to that conclusion?" You'll be amazed at what happens. People drop their defenses when they feel heard, and when defenses drop, real conversation begins. And don't think that this just applies to face-to-face debates. It works online too. Instead of firing off that clever rebuttal, take a step back and consider why the person might hold that viewpoint. You don't have to agree with them, but seeking to understand before you react will change the entire tone of the conversation. If we all did this, even just a little, we'd find ourselves moving away from arguments that divide us and toward discussions that enrich us. That's what being open-minded is really about. It's not about being passive or weak. It's about being strong enough to admit that maybe, just maybe, you don't know everything. Because here's the truth. Being right isn't the point. If you focus on learning instead, you'll always walk away from a debate having gained something valuable, something far more meaningful than a hollow victory. So go on, be brave enough to let go of needing to be right. Instead, choose to be open, curious, and willing to see things differently. Because in the end, it's not about who's right, it's about who's willing to grow. Now go out there and change how you approach every conversation. You might just change more than your own mind. You might change the world.